Bedtime Favorites. Cinderella, Bedtime for Gus. Cinderella looked out her bedroom window as the sun was setting over the horizon. The sky was golden and orange. In the distance, the clock in the tower of the castle read 8 o'clock. Cinderella leaned over and tapped gently on the walls of her attic room. "Bedtime, everyone," she called. Jock, Susie, Gus, and the other mice hurried out of their mouse hole. Cinderella did all of the household chores in her wicked stepmother's house. She never had time for fun, so the birds and mice were her only friends. Well, we can't forget Major the horse, or her dog Bruno. "Bedtime already?" Jock cried. "But bedtime?" Gus asked. Gus was Cinderella's newest mouse friend. She had just rescued him from a trap that morning. "Bedtime, Gus," Susie explained. "Close eyes and fall asleep." Gus looked confused. He closed his eyes and started to tip over. Jock caught him. "Not fall, Gus," he said. "Fall asleep, like this." He put his head on his hands and pretended to snore. Cinderella laughed. "Falling asleep isn't all there is to bedtime," she said. "Gus has never lived in a house before. We'll have to teach him about getting ready for bed." Okay, the other mice cried. "Show Gus." "First," Cinderella said, "you have to put on your pajamas." She went over to her dresser and pulled out a tiny pair of striped pajamas for Gus. "Here, try these on." Soon, all the mice were in their pajamas. Gus even wore a pair of cozy slippers. "That's better," Cinderella declared. "Pajamas are much more comfortable for sleeping than regular clothes." Gus nodded. Gus loves pajamas," he exclaimed. Gus wears pajamas all the time." "I don't know about that, Gus." Cinderella smiled. "I'm glad you like your pajamas, Gus, but they are only for while you're sleeping." The mouse nodded. "Now sleep, Cinderella?" another mouse cried. Cinderella smiled. "Not quite yet," she said to the young mouse. "First, wash your faces and brush your teeth. When you're all scrubbed and brushed, I'll kiss you goodnight, then Susie will tuck everyone in." The mice began to brush their teeth. Gus said with a smile, tasting the minty toothpaste. The other mice giggled and finished up. Gus watched carefully, and before long, he was done too. "To tuck in?" Gus asked. Jock pulled him toward the wash basin. "Not yet, Gus, he said. He handed him some soap. Gus watched as the other mice washed their faces with tiny cloths and patted themselves dry with old rags. Then he did the same. When the mice were all neat and clean, Cinderella kissed them goodnight. "Follow me," Jock told Gus. He ran over to his little bed and hopped in. Then he pointed to the bed next to him. "That's your bed," he said. Gus grinned and got under the covers. Susie tucked in each of the mice. "Story, Cinderella!" the mice cried. "Story!" "All right," she said. "Once upon a time, there was a young prince who lived in a beautiful castle. He had everything that money could buy: fine clothes, jewels, paintings, and more. But something was missing. He didn't have anyone special to love." She continued the story for a long time. Each time she tried to stop, the mice begged her for more. After a while, they couldn't keep their eyes open anymore. It was just too late. Oh, you guys. When the last mouse had fallen asleep, Cinderella tiptoed to her own bed and climbed in, still thinking about the bedtime story. Dreaming up tales made her forget her life of chores. Gus began to snore. Cinderella giggled and pulled up her covers. She glanced once more at the clock on the castle tower. Oh my, she murmured sleepily. If mice had their way, I'd be telling tales until midnight. You're right about that, Cinderella. She snuggled against her pillow and yawned. If only, she added sleepily, some of my stories would come true. The birds began to sing a lullaby, and soon Cinderella was fast asleep, dreaming that someday she'd live in a beautiful castle. Well, we all know that someday that dream of hers is gonna come true. So remember, if you're ever having trouble getting to sleep, ask a friend or family member to help you. And as Cinderella says, no matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true. See you later. Bye.